What's going on, guys? It's the Brigade once again, and we're back at it with another session of Killzone Shadow Fall. Alright guys, you know what? Before I even get started with the contents of this video, I want to go ahead and offer some of you guys an apology. Now, within the last few videos, I received comments from viewers, and perhaps subscribers, making the claim that despite me continuing to upload Killzone Shadow Fall videos, that I have failed to showcase some of the DLC maps, for which there are 3. And when I first started to read those comments, initially I'm like, what the hell are these guys talking about? Right? So before discounting their claims, I went back, looked at a lot of the more recent videos, and I noticed that guess what? Those guys were exactly right. So this particular video, yes, I'm on one of the standard maps, but it was mainly because, and now keep in mind, I have a lot of footage of this voltage. I dedicated like 2 whole days to only the voltage because I really wanted to showcase just some of what I've been going through with regard to this weapon. The downside to that is a lot of the extended war zones that I've been experiencing have been some of the longer ones, right? And this video, which is just over 25 minutes, is actually the shortest that I was able to find. Most of the war zones that I've been going through have been close games, 4-4, which would be a tie, 5, 6-2, 5-1, whatever the case may be. They've been pretty close. Actually, you can't even go to 6-2, but like maybe 5-2 or whatever it is pretty close. And a lot of those, they're pretty lengthy, right? And I understand that although some of you guys may enjoy the content, the commentaries, and some of the showcases that I offer, I know there are some other guys who are like, dude, I love your videos. I think they're informative. I think they're cool and all of that. But I just simply can't sit through 30 plus minutes of video. So, what I'm going to do is, granted this may be a little longer than what some of my videos usually are, because I know in the past I was able to do commentaries over a lot of the 24-man war zones. And actually, as far as commentaries are concerned, 24-man war zones were perfect. Right, because they were action-packed, but at the same time they were relatively short in length. So it wouldn't be uncommon for me to upload a 24-man war zone that would go no longer than, let's just say, 20 minutes. 20 minutes tops. With the extended war zone, you really have to be lucky. As a matter of fact, you really have to be in one of those cases where you are sweeping the opposition and they just simply did not put up a good fight. Right, so like I said before, I had a special theme going on with this particular video, so I guarantee that the next few videos that I upload involving Killzone Shadow Fall will include DLC maps. Alright, so enough about that. And for everyone who brought that to my attention, thanks for the feedback. Thanks for the observation in the comments. I always consider things that people say, even the people who dislike the channel, right? Because in other words, just because you may dislike what I'm saying does not take away the merits of what you may have to say. Like, in other words, I don't marginalize people's comments only because they don't like me. Right, because actually there's been times in the past where people have made dissenting comments, and after I thought about it, I'm like, you know what, let me just kind of be objective. And actually, after looking at it, it's like, oh, okay, they made a decent point, so perhaps I'll consider it. All right, so enough about that. You guys get the point. Next few videos, DLC maps. I got you. Now, a few days ago in the forums, I posted, I put forth a post wherein I basically said that GG has basically destroyed the usage of this weapon, which is, for a while, it used to be my favorite weapon, right? And that's the good old voltage. Now, prior to the nerf, the weapon was underused, even back then. Prior to the nerf, you would see more purgers, obviously more sickles, more stovas, obviously almost all of the assault weapons you saw more of. Even, you even saw more Valks and more Vlugs than the Voltage. So now that we have recently received the nerf, and I think we received it probably about a month ago, like, I almost never see it now. Like, in other words, it was already rare. Now it's basically extinct. Let's just put it that way. So I put forth a posting, and actually I got some interesting replies. I got one reply from good old Muffin Man, and he basically said that one reason why they nerfed it was because there was a glitch that allowed the Voltage to fire at fully automatic. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put a link in the description box to a video that's actually on his channel. First off, shout out to Muffin Man. Shout out to ID. All you guys are great. I've seen some of your little scrimmages on PKY's videos, Muffin's videos. You guys are awesome. And I check out Muffin's stream. And as a matter of fact, in addition to checking out his YouTube channel, go ahead, swing by his Twitch. Usually I catch him on Twitch on Sundays. Now, I don't know if he has a regular schedule. I don't know if it's random. But I know on most Sunday evenings you can catch Muffin Man. Awesome at the game. And he does his contributions by way of like the top 5 kills. Right? So go ahead and check him out. But anyway, he has a video on his channel of some dude named Reaper. I think he's another one of those ID guys. And this guy's basically straight beast mode with the Voltage. And it actually demonstrated the glitch that Muffin was talking about. It was a fully automatic glitch that actually I knew nothing about. Because when I used it with the standard 3-round burst with the brief pause between iterations. Now, I guess once it was brought to their attention, they decided to nerf it. So what they did was, instead of having 3 quick round bursts, a pause, and then 3 quick round bursts, they basically just slowed the whole thing down. So instead of a rhythm that's kind of similar to dat 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 dat, as you guys can see for yourself, is more like dat 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 dat. Now, some of you guys may say, dude, get over it. It's a slight difference. And to a lot of you guys who would say that, I'm pretty sure that some of you guys who are saying that are people who have never touched the Voltage, or maybe once or twice, and got rid of it. See, a lot of the hate that the Voltage receive is basically from people who have been on the bad end of it. Like, in other words, whenever you get killed by something a lot, it's easy to like make gripes and complaints about it. When the sickle was out, prior to the nerf, a lot of people complained about it. I hated it personally, but I never thought it needed a nerf. If you get killed too much by the Kaiser, or the Kaiser, no matter how you pronounce it, or if you get killed too much by the Rumbler, if you get killed too much by the grenade launcher underbarrel attachment, whatever you get killed too much by, may it be turrets, air drones, whatever the case may be, you'll get a large number of players who will complain. Now, side note, I really think that's a generational thing. Now, keep in mind, I know I'm biased, but I am a little more mature. And when I was growing up, first off, games didn't come out with patches. I really think today's gamers are spoiled, because it's kind of like when a game is produced, now keep in mind, patches are good in some cases. But in a lot of cases, I think some of these companies spoil the game by making too many nerfs and too many accommodating changes. Right? So I think this whole requesting for patches is a new generation's thing. Because when I was growing up, dude, if the game was tough, you just dealt with it, or you just didn't play it flat out. There was no thing about, we're going to spam the forums and complain and let people know, and we're going to make all these requests, and they had better adhere to our demands. No such thing when I was a kid. All right, but let me get back on track. So in other words, when they changed it, I was pretty disappointed because I used to use the weapon quite often. And one of the main reasons why I dislike the condition that the voltage currently is in, because it's really difficult when I'm in one of those close quarter combat situations. Like, in other words, from medium range to long range, the weapon is fine. But if someone runs up on me and I am too far of a distance to melee or brutal melee them, dude, I'm screwed. Because unless my opponent just has bad aiming, I'm going to be outclassed. Now, I know some of you guys are going to say, well, you deserve to be outclassed because that weapon is OP. But I mean, let's just look at it. Is the weapon really OP? Now, I've heard some people make the claim that, dude, I mean, look at how many rounds it is, therefore it's OP. Well, that's a pretty poor argument because the Purger has 450 rounds. I never really see anyone complain about the Purger. Or someone will say something like, well, it's just OP and that's it. Right? So they'll make a claim without really supporting it with anything. Comments like those, easy to dismiss. Number one, the weapon is not all that reliable. For anyone who has taken the time to use it, yes, it has a lot of rounds, but in a lot of cases, as you guys will see yourself, you'll be attempting to get kills, you'll be shooting off into the distance, and at most, you might slightly damage your opponents, but you won't necessarily get a lot of kills. It's not really all that accurate. Now, when you hit a group, dude, it's extremely effective. I will admit that. If you are in one of those perfect situations, may it be capture and hold, capture and connect, search and destroy, defend, maybe even attack, whatever the case may be, if you just so happen to have that weapon and there's a group of players and you're able to flank them, sneak behind them, get above them, or whatever the case may be, best believe you're going to get a lot of kills. But like I said before, it's unreliable when you run up to one of those 1v1 situations because you will be outclassed. The rate of fire that the voltage previously had at least made it somewhat viable in some of those close quarter situations. And one reference point, I'll leave another link in the description box for one of my own videos. Back in March, I created a video telling everyone how the voltage was one of my favorite weapons. I even talked about my whole journey with it, how initially I didn't like it, but I dedicated time to it, and after time I realized that I really liked it. And I explained why. But back then, if someone ran up on me, the rate of fire was good enough as far as those 3-round bursts. They were fast enough. And keep in mind, like I said before, I don't know anything about that fully automatic glitch. So I was using it the way it was intended when the game was released. I didn't manipulate it. I didn't do anything. You guys can watch that video for yourself. I used that weapon the way it was intended. And when someone ran up on me, I felt just about as confident as I would feel with a pulver or a stova. So in my personal opinion, it wasn't OP. Now is basically luck if I'm able to outclass someone. And in most cases, I die first. Now there are some cases where I'm faced against a player that's relatively new, or maybe I had, a slight advantage of jumping the gun on them before they had time to react. But 9 times out of 10, a good assault player, a good support player, I'm screwed. So, one thing that I would suggest is that they changed it back to what its original rate of fire was, but to fix the intervals between 3-round bursts. So in other words, the same speed that those 3-round bursts would fire at before, keep the same speed. But I would make sure that the intervals between those 3-round bursts were affixed. So let's just say the interval between 3-round bursts were a half second. And I think that's what it was. I think it's like a half second. I would make sure that no matter how many times a player would be spamming that R1 button, no matter how many times they did it, there is no way that that weapon could be manipulated into a fully automatic option. But aside from that, I really hope that they fix it, because at the end of the day, it didn't require a patch. It was just an in-game update that no one knew about. And to my knowledge, I can't even think of any forum posts or any request in the player's voice who asked for that weapon to be nerfed. So, okay, I think we talked enough about the voltage. I love the weapon. It has a lot of potential, but the fact that they nerfed it, you cannot deny that this weapon is underused. Not only was it underused when the game was first released and before the nerf, but it's also underused, is actually underused even more after they finally nerfed it. Okay, so enough about that. Another thing that I want to talk about. I play a lot of Killzone Shadow Fall. And while I'm playing, I run into a lot of good players. And one thing that I really want to know, now keep in mind, this is not a conversation about KDR whoring. So just pay close attention to what I'm saying. I really want to know, what is the difference in playstyle between a person with a 1.0 KDR and a 1.5 KDR? Also, I'd like to know what's the gameplay difference between a person with a 1.5 KDR and a 2.0 KDR. Obviously, 2.0 and a 2.5 and anything above 3. I would really want to know, what is the difference in play styles? Now, some of you guys may be saying to yourself, hold on there, Brigade, where are you going with this shit? The reason why I'm asking is because lately I've run into a few players, and when you check their player cards, their KDRs are 2.7, 3.0, and in some cases above 3.0. I think the highest that I've seen is a guy with a 3.5. Now, keep in mind that there's a lot of things that you need to consider when you're thinking about players who have those KDRs that are at least 3.0. Now, realistically speaking, I think a person with somewhere around a 2, 1.7 to, let's just say, slightly above 2, I think that's a little more realistic. Because at least in those situations, it just basically means that on average, they kill twice as many times as they die. So it could be 20-40, 15-30, 25-50, whatever the case may be. But when you're talking a 3.0 and above, it's kind of what in the hell are those guys doing? And you can't even really attribute it to players who, let's just say they're scout class. You can't even attribute it to that. Because in other words, all you have to do is look at the time spent playing the game, the number of days or the number of hours relative to the number of kills that they have. So in other words, if a player's only been playing for 4 days, yet they have 30,000 kills, they obviously didn't get that KDR through sniping. So can't really even present that argument. And also, when you look at some of the challenges that they've completed, you can look at the weapons and all like that. You can also tell, well, they don't even really touch the scout class, so you can't even blame it on scout class. Because there are a lot of factors that are involved in dying. Some of them involved internet speed, right? Because in other words, let's just say you have poor internet, you're more likely to die. Other factors will involve wireless versus wired connection. Probably more likely to die, if you have, let's just say, the connection type that is not the most ideal. Let's just put it that way. Another factor, let's just say television screen size, input lag. Those are other factors. Now, keep in mind, some of those can be controlled from. And, some of those can be controlled factors. But, there's so many factors in there. Dude, I don't know how many times I have played on maps wherein it seemed like the opposition did nothing but to spam those damn air drones and ground support turrets. And when I'm in war zones like that, I mean, I die a lot more often than what I win. Now, keep in mind, I never get to the point. Now, it's very rare to where I pretty much break even. Like, whenever I get to a match where I break even, like, either the team that I was up against was super duper awesome sauce, or I was just playing extremely bad. You know, in most cases, because, you know, just to gauge how my own gameplay is. At the end of most matches, what I'll do is I'll just go ahead, divide my kills by my losses, and it'll tell me what my KDR was for that particular match. Right? Just like on this one, I think I went like, I don't know, 53-20. So for this particular match, it was pretty good. And I kind of do that for a lot of matches, just to kind of gauge. Because like I said before, KDRs are only an indicator of how well a person plays, but it doesn't determine anything. Because think about it, there are people who stack teams, there are people who pub stump, and people who pub stump, they're more likely, in my personal opinion, to do well and to have very high win-loss ratios. Right? So I mean, so there are things that people can do to kind of shift the tides. So, and matter of fact, let me give you another example. There's this guy, I think his name is like Blackie Z or some shit like that. Dude, I watched a video of his. Now, keep in mind, it's a pretty exhausting video. But he went like 150 and 45, I think. That guy was like straight beast mode. And, you know, and, you know, another good thing about watching players like Muffin Man, I like whenever really good players stream, because you can see for yourself how they play. You can see if they are basically hiding in corners. You can see if they're pursuing objectives. You can see if they're dropping spawn beacons. You can see if they're getting a lot of their kills with ground support turrets. And keep in mind, whenever I watch that guy play, like 90% of it, I'll say 99% of it is like all gunplay. Like he might use ground support turrets or something, but I would say that more likely than not is all gunplay. So you can't even say, well, Muffin Man, he just buffs his kills. Now, I'm not saying the guy never uses it. I'm just saying based upon my observations whenever I watch his streams. So it's easy to attribute his 2.0 to his tactics and everything. So I would love to hear you guys' feedback on actually both topics. One being the playstyles of some of these extremely above average KDRs, and also on the topic of the voltage. Now, I think I'm going to upload perhaps a few other voltage videos, because actually I've been getting a lot of good footage with this voltage. Just so happened, as I explained in the beginning, this was the shortest. And I know that a lot of guys are not really interested in sitting and watching, you know, 35-minute videos. Right? So it is what it is. So I'm going to pretty much end this particular video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and put a link to those videos in the description box. And as a matter of fact, I'll also put a link to that Blackie's dude. I think it's like Blackie Z or some shit like that. I'd also put a link to his video in the description box. So in the event that you're interested, you could check out that Warzone wherein he did like 150 and 45. All right, I'll go ahead and put all those links. The link, Muffin Man's link with Reaper using the voltage glitch, my previous voltage video, and the Blackie's Z. And I hope I'm not like screwing his name up, but that's all I can remember. It's like Blackie Z or Black Z or some shit like that. I'll put a link to that video in the description box as well. Alright guys, so hey, until next time, Martyrs Brigade is